Black is beautiful, but not always accepted. From a top art collector with ties to the University of Alabama to a Jim Crow era artist and her work gone without a trace.
By the end of the year, if we can find an example of Corietta Mitchell's work and learn more about her story, then nothing would please me more.
But now we're seeing a culture-changing resurgence. Today's artists using a blank canvas to share their Black heritage in living color.
It's healing for me, and it's how I choose to exist in the world.
And I really like that about Black art. It's the expression that I love. It's very much how you see the world and how you choose to depict it.
Giving the next generation the space to grow and learn from the lessons being taught today, making the road of life a little bit easier.
Embracing Black culture, Red Mountain Theater presents The Wiz. I'm Michael Higdon on set, bringing you a behind-the-scenes look, chatting with the actors who really bring this story to life and how they are celebrating Black History Month.
WVTM 13 News presents our Black History Month special, celebrating the arts, past, present, and future.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Guy Rawlings.
And I'm Carla Wade. For generations, the Black arts have told the stories that history books left out, preserving culture, inspiring change, and shaping the world around us. And tonight, we're taking you on a journey.
Yeah, we start with a mystery dating back decades. 75 years after opening its doors, the Birmingham Museum of Art is reckoning with its past and searching for a missing piece of history. During segregation, the museum quietly made a groundbreaking move, featuring its first Black artist. But today, none of her work can be found. As the museum marks a major anniversary, it's asking for your help to finally close that chapter. The Birmingham Museum of Art was founded in 1951 at the height of Jim Crow. As a city-run institution, segregation wasn't optional. It was the law.
Because the museum was founded in the era of Jim Crow, all of the racist, segregationist laws that were in place at that time applied to all public venues. For this institution, that meant that Black visitors could only attend one day a week.
For decades, Black patrons were turned away simply for showing up on the wrong day. A reality the museum now openly acknowledges.
It's something that's a shameful part of our history, but something we have to acknowledge to be able to move forward and really fully serve this community.
Then in March of 1963, 4 months before Birmingham officially repealed segregation laws, the museum's founding director, Richard Howard, made a quiet but historic decision.
He accorded a one-woman show to an artist named Corietta Mitchell, who was a major figure in the Birmingham art scene at that time. Now, the art scene in Birmingham was segregated as well. There were 2 Birmingham art clubs, one all Black, one all white.
Obviously, Corietta Mitchell was a leader of Birmingham's Black Art Club. She was also an educator, a classically trained pianist, and a trailblazer, according to an article from the Birmingham News. Her exhibition drew more than 600 people and made headlines across the state.
In later years, as Corietta Mitchell continued to exhibit her work here in Birmingham, it was often brought up that she was the first Black artist to have an exhibition at the Birmingham Museum of Art. That's something that she became known for as a trailblazer. Sadly, I will say though, to this date, we have not been able to locate a single example of her work.
Not one painting, not one print, just a checklist and a grainy newspaper photo. Now, as the museum celebrates its 75th anniversary, that absence feels impossible to ignore.
As we look ahead at the future, we're also looking back at the past and acknowledging our history, and that's the good, the bad, and the ugly.
The museum is now asking for the public's help, family members, former students, anyone who might know where Mitchell's work went.
If any of your viewers knew Corietta Mitchell, took piano with her, were friends socially, I wish I knew which church she went to. That would be another lead that we could look into. But someone in the Magic City has to remember her.
Well, Well, finding her art wouldn't just fill a gap in the museum's collection, it would restore a name nearly lost to history. If you have any information about Corietta Mitchell or her artwork, the museum urges you to come forward. Well, what started as a rejection rooted in segregation became one of the most powerful art collections in the country. You can see it right now in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, a black student once denied admission to the University of Alabama is now honored on its campus. The Paul R. Jones multi-million-dollar collection tells stories that might have otherwise been erased. WVTM 13's Jarvis Robertson takes us inside.
Nestled in the Arts and Entertainment District of downtown Tuscaloosa sits the Paul R. Jones Museum. Its collection is a showcase of passion and mystery.
It was given to the university in 2008. The collection comprises about 2,300 pieces.
Jones grew up in Bessemer and is considered to be one of the top 100 art collectors in the country. His ties to the University of Alabama are interesting. He applied to the School of Law and was accepted. However, when the dean learned Jones was black, that acceptance was rescinded.
In the early 2000s, the University of Alabama reached out to Mr. Jones and apologized for what had happened in 1949.
The museum's director, Daniel White, says from there, a partnership was formed through forgiveness and acceptance. The university awarded Jones an honorary law degree, and he agreed to house his extensive art collection on campus.
In doing so, he had a mandate that he wanted the collection to be seen, studied, and enjoyed.
His taste for the imaginative space began while he lived in Georgia. That's where he longed to see more black artists, so he used his money to do something about it.
Oftentimes, he would buy several pieces just to keep them going and interested.
Walking through the gallery, you will notice pieces from high school students mixed in with Jones's collection, becoming inspiration for a new generation.
An interesting aspect about the collection is some of the pieces are decades old, while others were completed more recently. I'm told that some of the pieces require special attention and maintenance.
Oftentimes, we either have to have them rematted or send them off to conservation, get them reframed.
I'm told the collection is worth millions of dollars, but what else makes it interesting is the different artists featured. Some are said to be world-renowned, while others aren't as recognizable.
Sometimes we'll find great examples of artists that we didn't expect to have in the collection.
Jarvis Robertson, WVTM 13.
From museum halls to brick walls, a painter's canvas can be anything, anywhere. Driving around Birmingham, you may have noticed murals like these. Some of them are part of the Alabama Mural Trail. The trail is a diverse set of murals found in urban and rural areas stretching across the state. Throughout this broadcast, we'll highlight a couple of them and the people who were etched in black history.
Historically, with limited opportunities for exposure, many artists weren't well known in their lifetimes. But today's artists have more ways for people to see their work, but it still takes a tremendous amount of talent, discipline, and courage to pursue art as a career. But that's exactly what one young Birmingham woman is doing on her own terms.
With just a glance.
It's like a language, and it's one of those universal languages like music, where I think even if the concepts or the meanings are they're difficult or maybe even challenging to understand, you can feel it.
You can feel it. And if you look just a little longer, there's really no need for an interpreter.
It opens the door for conversations, for people to learn and to discuss whatever the topic is. I didn't know indigo was a plant, first of all.
You'll understand everything Micah Althea Briggs is saying through her art. She draws inspiration from themes and symbols common across the African diaspora and in nature.
I'm telling the story of how nature and human life are connected and how as humans we're mirrors of one another.
You can find and see her work around Birmingham. This mural near Parker High School is a part of the Smithfield Public Art Walk, unveiled in July of 2025.
This is going to be a living and synthetic moss.
While pregnant with her now 3-year-old daughter, her wellness research prepared her for a unique project, allowing her work to be seen by people far outside of Alabama. It was called Birthing in Alabama, designing spaces for reproduction.
I created 24 botanical illustrations, and they were done in ink.
The illustrations were a welcome departure from her usual oil paintings, which she started doing in college at UAB. As a student, her focus on African history and culture sometimes faced criticism. She remembers this piece in particular forced her to defend her point of view.
I remember someone saying, "Why does everything you do have to be black? Why does everything you do have to look like that?" And I was like, because it's who I am. And people create art about different things, but art represents my life, my experience, my culture, my heritage, and that's just what I choose to create.
With every brushstroke, she says ideas for other projects color her thoughts. But she hopes what inspires and speaks to her.
There are those few people who it touches and who it impacts in a positive way, and that means everything to me.
Also inspires and speaks to you.
Well, right now, Micah is busy preparing for her first solo exhibition called Vis-a-Vis, the intersection of spirit, soil, and soul. It's one weekend only. That's March 27th through the 29th at the Daddis Henry Wellness and Health on 4th Avenue North in Birmingham.
A beloved cult classic celebrated for its music, unique visual style, and black culture. I'm Michael Higdon at Red Mountain Theater, giving you a behind-the-scenes look at The Wiz and why those here at the theater are really embracing the future of the arts.
Plus, lessons from the past forging a limitless future. The values one art teacher is passing along to his students, one stroke at a time. Welcome back to our Black History Month special, celebrating the arts, past, present, and future. Birmingham's theater scene has long been a stage for storytelling, growing right alongside the Magic City itself. Now, Red Mountain Theater is bringing a beloved classic to life, The Wiz, a story so many grew up with, reimagined for a new generation.
And WVTM 13's Michael Higdon takes us behind the curtain, sitting down one-on-one with the cast to talk legacy, representation, and how they hope to see the arts continue to evolve.
Brick by brick and step by step, a building of culture to be celebrated. Donned with dazzles and colors, The Wiz comes to life.
It's like this burst of joy, which is exciting and significant.
Twyla Grider is the costume designer for this play, inspired by the director's vision and a world completely influenced by 90s hip hop.
Yeah, I mean, the play itself has all these wacky characters, right? Like every little character is funny and cute or a little bit scary. But the role, I always say that the costumes, especially for this play, is like the other cast member.
Monet, the director, says it was a bit daunting, especially being performed during Black History Month in Birmingham, because she wants to honor the fight.
I think people will just be excited and tickled by to kind of frame the pieces of The Wiz that are, always relevant and nice to kind of receive and think about looking within yourself and what home means to you and what friendship means to you.
And the actors bring that friendship to life both on and off stage.
This specific production of The Wiz does generational very well, though, because we're set in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I know my generation personally, we have 2000s days. So we love everything about that time in Black history.
There was some back and forth between the younger and older generation, whether they saw The Wiz for the first time as the movie or the play, but all of them knows this story has a much larger meaning.
It celebrates Black culture, and I see my people, I hear my type of songs and that kind of thing. So I'll say in one word, nostalgia.
For me, it's joy, it's celebratory.
The story itself embodies the past, present, and future, something Red Mountain Theater is embracing when it comes to the arts. It takes about 100 people to put on a show like this, from creative to live orchestra, production crew, support staff, and actors, all coming together to put on a spectacular performance representing what Black History Month means to them.
The journey to freedom.
It's about pride, it's not, I know sometimes that word pride gets misconstrued sometimes, but there is a sense of pride in who we are and what we've done and in our story.
For me, Black history is acceptance as a whole, whether that's self, community, as like a culture, and as society, as far as like what we've gone through, the mistakes we've made.
I think Black history is celebration. I personally love the quote, "I am my ancestors' wildest dreams." I live that and I carry that with me every day.
While this version of The Wiz will be floating away soon, Red Mountain Theater remains anchored to show the importance of the arts as a staple in the community. The Wiz will be here until March the 1st. In Birmingham, I'm Michael Higdon.
And everyone that Michael interviewed had some incredible things to say about the behind the scenes of the musical to how they adapted it as their own.
Also, how they'd like to see the arts grow here in Birmingham. You can watch their full interviews on our website right under this story at WVTM13.com. Each one, teach one. That's art teacher Ahmad Austin's mission. And next on our Black History Month special, celebrating the arts, past, present, and future, see how lessons from his past are helping feed the future in his classroom.
Welcome back. Let's head out to the Alabama Mural Trail. This is at 4th Avenue North between 16th and 17th Street. Recognize this woman here, born in Eufaula, Alabama in 1858. And this woman moved to Birmingham at the turn of the century. She founded the Tuggle Institute. Opened in 1903, it provided safe housing and education for orphaned black children. Educator, social worker, and servant to mankind, this is Carrie Tuggle. Inside a Hoover classroom, every brushstroke carries history and every color tells a story.
One art teacher is making sure his students understand Black history isn't separate from American history. It's woven into it through paint, passion, and powerful lessons from the past. His students are discovering who they are and who they want to become.
And WVTM 13's Aaron Llewellyn shows us how art is helping shape the next generation.
In this classroom.
So what you gonna do, add it darker, make it darker?
Yeah.
Okay, add black to it.
Every line and every color is more than art. It's a way to tell our story.
Black history is American history. I mean, a part of American history would be where it is because of Black history. So I think they intertwine together.
The past and the present meeting on the same canvas.
Should have about 4 or 5 colors in your portrait.
And Ahmad Austin says, you can trace that story through art history. As the art teacher at Hoover High School, he makes sure students know the names and the legacy they're a part of.
Basquiat for sure, Alma Thomas, Jacob Lawrence, Romare Bearden.
That's the past. But in this room, it's also the present.
Decide which colors you want to use.
Because for many students, art is where they find their voice. Lamont Jarman says, art has helped shape how he sees himself and how he wants the world to see him.
All of us shape ourselves to be seen by other people. And if you're gonna shape yourself, you might as well do it in a way that you like personally, and not just because someone told you to style your hair this way or draw this way or move that way.
And for Capri Parks, this classroom is a safe space to let go and create without fear.
Being in this classroom, it's a lot of discovering that art isn't about perfecting it and making it look good. It's about how it makes you feel and if you feel accomplished by that.
Austin says that's what he hopes his students will walk away from his class knowing, that art doesn't just stop when the bell rings.
He's just very good at making sure that art that is done in this room expands outside of it, and that we use that as we go forward through our high school and figure out what we want to do.
And that's where the future comes in, because whether these students become professional artists or not.
Are there any questions? Any questions?
Austin says his job is to pour into them now, like someone did for him.
When I was younger, my dad used to play jazz music around the house all the time. At that time, I was all about hip hop and jazz music. I don't want to listen to that mess. And then as I got older, I gained appreciation for it. And then I started kind of implementing my art with that jazz.
Now he's inspiring the next generation of artists, teaching students that Black art is a living, breathing part of America's story, still being painted, creating a colorful story of our past, our present, and our future. In Hoover, Aaron Llewellyn, WVTM 13.
A cultural transformation happening in Ensley. The resources one organization's putting together to make sure future creators are in a position to be successful. Welcome back. Our last stop on the Alabama Mural Trail is here at 4th Alley South and 41st Street in Birmingham. This mural is titled Know Your History, a colorful piece, a masterpiece featuring Sun Ra, a musician and poet born right here in the Magic City. Political activist Angela Davis, civil rights photographer Spider Martin, and Fred Shuttlesworth, a pioneering figure in the civil rights era. All Black history icons in their own right. But we've been telling you how the past impacts the future.
And a new initiative from a nonprofit in Ensley is tying both of them together. The Flourish Alabama focuses on arts education and working with local artists. Well, now it's expanding its community impact through the Black Arts District Initiative. The district will take up most of the 600 block of Ensley's 19th Street.
We want everybody who's coming to events, coming to this space, to not only say, wow, I didn't know that this was in Ensley, but also like, there's a piece of me that I see in this experience.
Beyond renovating the music studio, the gallery, the dance studio, or the garden, Jamon Hill hopes the impacts of the Black Arts District outlive him, calling it a 50-year project. Well, that's it for our Black History Month special, celebrating the arts, past, present, and future. Tonight, we've honored the legends who paved the way, the artists shaping our culture right now, and the young voices that are already creating what comes next.
Thanks for spending time with us as we honor the voices that inspire, challenge, and move us forward. As we leave you, here's a look at some of the murals across Birmingham that truly reflect the past, honor the present, and inspire the future. Have a good night.